Welcome to Creating Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Paige. This is an inspirational podcast where guests come on and share their real life stories. They discuss their struggles, hardships, and traumas. They also discuss how those encounters have helped them change, grow, and the healing process they've experienced. They share where they are today in hopes of helping someone else who could be going through the same or similar situations. So join me as we inspire others weekly to become the best versions of themselves. Hey y'all, welcome into another episode of Creating Yourself podcast with me, your host Paige. Today I have on Tywanah Yvette, and she is going to be talking to us. Her alter ego is Black Butterfly Goddess. Hey Tywanah, how are you?
Hey, Paige, thanks so much for having me.
I'm excited to have you on today and hear your story and just have you share it with all of my listeners. So if you're ready, you can go ahead and get started whenever you're ready.
I'm ready. Well, I'm Tywanah, and like she said, my alter ego is Black Butterfly Goddess. And Black Butterfly Goddess was born from a spiritual awakening that I've gone through in the last 2.5 years. I had tried to end my life on March 19th of 2022. And I remember kind of being in this void. And I was at the edge of a forest, and my mother and my stepfather were standing there. And they said, "It's not time. You can't come. It's not time yet. And it's time for you to start your purpose." And my mother pushed me, and I woke up in the hospital. I was in a very toxic relationship and didn't realize it because it wasn't physical. So it's kind of not, you don't really believe yourself. You talk your way out of it. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Because
100%.
it's like it's not physical. He's just screaming at me all the time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I'm a domestic abuse survivor, so I totally get that.
Okay, so you get it. So that's what pushed me to not want to be here anymore. He had torn me down so bad that I just felt worthless and useless. And took a bottle of sleeping pills and went and laid between two trees. And that's when, like I said, my mother and my stepfather were there, and they were like, "Nope, not time. Now your purpose begins." In the last 2.5 years, I've lost pretty much every friend I thought I had. My children have gone no contact, understandably so. Mom's unhealed trauma, at the time, did affect them being raised. And I've literally spent the last 2.5 years 100% working on me. 100%, getting rid of the childhood trauma. I'm an incest survivor, and that, carried into my adulthood. And I finally said, I have to do this. I've got to, face this darkness. I've got to face this side of myself. I've got to face this truth. And I had not shared with most of the family how far the abuse had gone with my father. And I started sharing it in 2022. And some of the family doesn't care. Some of the family are very, like my siblings on my dad's side are very, very nurturing and loving about what actually happened. But that's what I've been doing. And in February, I heard my mother say clear as day, "It's time to use your voice. Your voice is meant to heal others. It's time to use your voice." And I did my first podcast, and I was shaking like a leaf the whole time. I had a sore throat after. This is my calling, to use my voice to help others heal. Healing through the domestic violence was not easy because for a year after the relationship ended, I hadn't even really wrapped my mind around it was domestic violence. And of course, healing from the incest was not an easy fate. Every day I fight. Every day I get up and find a reason to smile, a reason to fight, somebody to talk to, somebody that I can help. That's my purpose. Every day, use my voice to let others know that they're not alone, that there are a lot of us out here, that have gone through unspeakable things and we are willing to help. That's my purpose. So that's me pretty much in a nutshell right now. The last 2.5 years of my life have been the most life altering. And I've got to say I'm proud of myself.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm a domestic abuse survivor too, and I feel like anybody that's been through anything like that can definitely relate to not just domestic abuse. You can relate to a lot of different kinds of abuse, because domestic abuse isn't always just physical. And I feel like people are so quick to be like, it's physical. It's not. Like, it's mental, it's emotional, it's physical, it can be sexual. I never experienced that part of it. But it can be so many different forms of abuse, and even like we talked about it on an episode that I have another podcast with one of my friends, and we did an entire episode on domestic abuse awareness. And it can even be things like financially, like them controlling your finances, so even if they're like they're down to, you're not allowed to spend money here, like that's a form of abuse. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize just how extensive the abuse can be and what all it actually entails. So it's really hard to explain to people if they've never experienced it. And they're like, well, he's only telling you like you can't buy the dress. And it's like, but that's a form of abuse. Like it's not just
Exactly.
You can't buy the dress. You know what I mean? So it's hard for people to understand if they've never experienced it before. And for people to see the signs if they don't know what to look for.
I knew what to look for if it was physical, but I had never, the constant arguing, the belittling, the bringing up my past when his was 1,000 times worse than mine. I mean, just any joy that I had, any smile that I had, anything that I did that made me happy, he wanted to take it away, but then would say he wanted me to be happy,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
He's a fourth grade teacher, so everybody loved him. You know what I mean? Who's going to believe me? That, yes, he's this great guy at the school. When he comes home, it's the devil.
Yeah, and it seems like it almost seems like sometimes the men that do it are the ones that are like the favorite in the community. They have this
Yes.
Leadership mentality. You're like just like community leaders, like mayors or doctors, or like you said, school teachers, principals, like things like that. Those sort of like jobs where they're looked up to in communities or their career fields or things like that, because they like to have that showman status.
Yes. They like that. Oh, he's a good guy. He's a great guy status. But no, he's not even a decent person, let alone a good guy or a great guy. And when I met him, I was very secure. I loved my body at the time. I was doing Pilates. I was doing wonderfully. And it was like, by the time it was all over, I hated everything about me. By the time it was all said and done, I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. He would tear me down that bad. And he used him knowing about the incest as a way to tear me down even further. So he would bring it up often and make comments about it.
Yeah, they tend to do that too. If they have a way to know about past traumas, it seems like they find people that are not necessarily weak, but they have something that they can hold over them. That's another
Yes.
that's more or less like a green flag for them to hold over your head.
Yeah. It's not even it's weak in a sense because I didn't love myself. Because had I loved myself, the first red flag, I would have been gone. I had my own place in a very nice area. I didn't need him for anything, but I didn't love myself at the time. I thought I did, but I didn't because I hadn't dealt with the box that was in the back of my head that needed to be unpacked about childhood trauma. That's completely different now. I love myself. No one can tell me anything about me that is going to make me change the way I feel about myself. I know who I am, I know my purpose, and it just is what it is now. Um, but with those boundaries comes a lot of loss because people get used to the you that they can run over. They get used to that version of you that's always, doing everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
So,
when I started my healing journey a year and a half ago, I lost so many friendships. I mean, I'm still healing. Like I feel like we'll never like people that have been through trauma and abusive situations never fully heal. It's always a
no.
healing. But when I started it, I lost so many friendships and still to this day, like I've even had to like cut off very close family friends that I've known
Yeah.
I've known my entire life. Like they knew me from birth.
Mm-hmm.
Because they can't understand the boundaries that I've set, and I've
Yes.
allowed myself to just completely be 100% who I am. I don't filter myself. I don't try to be somebody that I'm not. And I've always been very people pleasing and allowing others to kind of dictate how I act. And I just got to the point
Right.
where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be completely who I am. No holds barred. Don't care. And some people associate that with me being disrespectful and rude and disrespecting myself. And I'm like, no, I'm respecting myself by allowing myself to be completely who I am and don't care. And I don't care who it pisses
Exactly.
off anymore. And it's like, they're like, people won't respect you for how you act and how you talk and the things that you say. And it's like, then I don't need those people in my life. I have so many people that respect me and look up to me, mainly because of what I'm doing right now, this podcast and helping others and
Mm-hmm.
sharing other people's stories. And she, this person that I'm talking of was like, people are going to look at you as distasteful, and and I was like, okay, she was like, you're not the only person who's been through trauma. You need to remember that. And I'm like, do you realize that my podcast that I have is focused on sharing other people's traumatic stories, correct? Like,
Right.
right. It was a whole thing, and I'm just like, okay. And I finally was just like, I'm going nowhere with this conversation, and it's extremely heartbreaking to have to cut someone off like that. But it's like,
It
I
is.
feel like I'm talking to this like microphone and expecting a response. Like
Yes.
my entire podcast is
I had to
dedicated
end.
to talking to other people about their trauma, and you're sitting here telling me that I act as though I'm the only one who's ever been through trauma. Huh? What? Okay. Slow clap for you. Okay.
Exactly. Like people don't realize once we become our true authentic selves, once we start holding those boundaries and things like that, things become so simple to us. And it's like, why don't you get it? Like you said, I dedicate my podcast to people who have trauma. So, of course, I'm aware, I had to end a very long friendship last November because I'm growing, I'm evolving, and she was supposed to be on this journey with me. Yes, after I have my back surgery, yes, I'm going to start healing, da 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 da. And she has a mother wound that cannot be fixed. It can't be helped. It was so deep that she caused herself to go back into the hospital with an infection because she thought it would keep me there. She liked the way I care for her when she had her back surgery. So she put a heating pad. I didn't know until after she went back to the hospital. She put a heating pad on the wound, caused an infection so that I wouldn't come back to DC, so I would stay there.
Wow.
And ending that friendship, I sat on the recliner for 2 months, kind of staring into space every day because I really just had to sit down and process what I saw. And, she would lie to me constantly. And, I would tell her, okay, I'm a psychic, number one. You have seen my psychic gifts in operation. Your grandparents have channeled through me. So it's not a lie because I didn't know their names or accents or anything. Why do you keep lying to me about nonsense? And,
That's
my health started to be
mind-blowing.
affected. And I'm like, yeah, it was a whole thing. I was just like, I remember calling one of my friends. I call her birthday twin. We met in a bariatric group, but we were born on the same day. And I'm like, am I losing it? Like, this is what's happening. Am I losing it? And she's like, no, go home, get out of there. But yeah, and I wanted her to be on this journey with me. I loved her, I loved her daughter. I wanted to see her heal. I wanted to see her go beyond, where she was. But sometimes we get so scared of the pain that we're going to feel when we face it that we put it off. And in putting it off, it only makes the pain worse. If I had done this 31 years ago, like I should have, before I had my children, the trajectory of my life would have been completely different. And my children's lives would have been completely different. If I had just faced those wounds then, because then I wouldn't have chosen terrible spouses. I wouldn't have chosen terrible partners. I wouldn't have felt inadequate myself. I would have loved myself. And that would have been reflected in their lives. Yeah, this whole healing journey, it's hard, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it to
Yeah,
be able to
I tell everybody, I'm like, look,
look at yourself in the mirror and love yourself.
right, I tell everybody, I'm like, the healing journey is something that, listen, if you're like lonely and you're depressed and you're in a state of you just can't get out of bed in the morning, when you start the healing process, that is going to only get worse. But once you get halfway through it and you really are doing the work and you're putting in the effort, what's on the other side of the lonely and depressed is a so much more rewarding, like, lonely and depressed, because it's a different type of lonely and depressed that is rewarding. And then once you get to like the light at the end of the tunnel, all of that lonely and depressed that was different than the initial lonely and depressed is like,
Disappears.
holy shit, now I get it. And it's like, you look back at all the people you left behind and it's like, okay, now I get it. Now I understand it and now I see it. And it's so fucking hard and it's so miserable when you're in it. But when you get there and you like really see, it's incredible to see and to like witness and to feel.
It's like standing at the top of a mountain, you know, and realizing you could climb it all along. It's, you know, I miss my children, of course, but you know, I'm speaking out. I'm sure they'll see something somewhere at some point and they will see that mom is not the same mom. But to be at a place to where I love me, to be at a place to where I can smile when I look in the mirror, whether I'm in my troll wear, as I say to my friend when I got my pajamas on, or you know, whether I'm dressed up, I can sit in my apartment alone for days and I'm not lonely. You know, it's a different type of feeling. It is exhilarating. And when I tell you the opportunities that have been laid at my feet just because I said yes to myself, I will be a published author in October. I'm speaking on podcasts. I'm chosen for a women's summit in July. The things that are coming into my life are things that I dreamed about when I was a little girl. So I can say the last 2.5 years, yeah, they've been hell, but they've been worth it. It was worth every tear, every night that you're sitting there, you know, don't know if you're going to make it through the night, kind of
Yeah.
crying and, you know, holding yourself in the bathtub and whatever you have to do to get through. It is so worth it because now I know who I am. If someone had asked me, who are you years ago, it was, I'm this one's mother. I'm this one's grandmother. I'm this one's wife. I never had my own identity. I have my own identity now. I am a woman who inspires others. I am a healer. You know, and none of that is attached to a different person. It's all in me. And one of my best friends, she's also a coach. She's, you know, we've been friends for 10 years and she's watched me go from married and miserable and homeless and this and that and all these other situations. And she's like, I saw this years ago. You know, she's psychic as well. I saw this years ago, but you know, there's certain times we can't say things. We're bound. We can only say what we're allowed to say. And you know, the way she looks at me now, like even when we're co-working, because she's in Morocco, it's like, wow, you did it. You know what I mean? Like, wow, you really did it.
Yeah, I
And
totally.
she knows it wasn't easy.
Yeah, I totally understand what you mean because it's like I look back at myself just a couple of years ago and I was so miserable. And I was like, I get up, I go to work, I come home, I do the mom thing, I do the wife thing. You know, even as a single mom, you do the mom thing. Come home, you cook dinner, you bath, you go to you put them to bed, and you go to bed. And it's like you get up and you do the same thing the next day, and it's like, what am I other than like, you know, yeah, I'm a mom and I'm living for my kids so that they have a mom, but like other than that, what am I really living for? Like what am I doing?
Right.
And now I'm not even working right now at this point and I'm getting by on like tax money and things like that, but like I get up in the morning and I'm like I feel satisfied. I get up and I get dressed and I like clean my house and I do chores, you know, like those kind of things. And I do these recordings and I work my social medias so that, you know, it's active and people are seeing things. And I have another podcast that I do with a friend and we record that and I work on things for that. And it's like, I may not have a full-time working paying job, but I'm still so fucking satisfied with what I'm doing in this and trying to like get it to a point where I can make money off of this and like this possibly could become a full-time thing for me. And
Right.
that is so just, it makes me so happy in a way that I never thought that I would be.
It does. It does. And it's the craziest thing because you do go from a lot of us who have gone through spiritual awakenings don't work regular jobs right now. Most of us are getting by one way or another, but it's because that drained us. It took the life force from us. That just constant hamster wheel. I've worked for nonprofits, I worked for White House appointees, I've worked for entrepreneurs, and it is draining. It is draining doing that repeat every day, you know? So a lot of us, even though we may have less, we're happier because we're being ourselves and we're helping others in the way that we can. It's ironic how, so many of our lives parallel. My friends and I talk about it all the time about how none of us really have full-time jobs right now or anything like that, but we're all getting by. And we're doing what we love to do, which is help other people. Using our voices, our platforms, whatever we have available to help others, to let people know they're not alone. Because the spiritual journey is no joke.
I hate even saying it out loud because I feel like people are like, you're not working, and it's like, I've taken this time to like really focus even more on myself, and I get a lot of flack for not having a job, full-time job and all of that. And it's like, I have tried so hard to find a full-time job. And it's like, for some reason, I don't even get like calls for interviews. And I have a bachelor's degree. So for me, it's like, what is the purpose of this keeping me from finding a job? Like, I feel like there's got to be a reason that I'm not finding work or nobody's calling me for interviews. Like, what is it? There's got to be a reason somewhere, some way, somehow, and I'm going on almost 5 months of, I've applied for so many freaking jobs. It's ridiculous at this point.
I believe you. And I believe you.
I don't even understand how, like, not one phone call, like nothing. And I have a bachelor's degree. I have so much experience in different fields. And it's like nothing. It just is mind-boggling.
It's because you're supposed to be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
You're not meant to do that. And even though the funds and things like that might not align the way you want them to, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Helping other people, to get what they have out so that we can continue to heal other people. Because when people feel understood, they heal easier. They heal better when they feel like somebody can relate to them. I thought I was the dirtiest thing in the world because of what my father did. And I had never met anybody who could relate to it. So, I never talked about it. I kept it in that box in the back of the head, I talked about it to a certain degree, but never the full story until now. Now there's no topic of my life is off limits now. I tell my story proudly and publicly.
I'm the same way. Like, there's so many people, like, I've been through a few friendships where, like, they're like, well, I'm going to tell what you did. And I'm like, I'll tell it. Just let me tell it, because I don't have any secrets. Like, my skeletons are in my closet, but I put them out for Halloween decorations every year. And, like, I don't care for them to be there because I'll tell it. Like, I will straight up sit here and tell you, I have 2 kids out of wedlock. I have 2 baby daddies. Like, I've been through domestic abuse. Like, I will tell you everything. And then you have nothing left to be like, I know your secret. No, you don't, because I don't have secrets. Like, I don't have anything that you can hold over my head and be like, well, I know this about you and nobody knows. No, because my skeletons are hanging in the trees. They're hanging out there for everybody to see. So go ahead and try to tell them because they're already out. Like, I don't have anything that I'm not open about to share because I don't, like, I feel like that's just a part, and I feel like that's another part of healing too, is like you have to be open to share your full story authentically and genuinely and openly.
Yes, yes. That's why, when one of my friends asked me, why do you talk on the podcast about you and the girls, not being in a good space right now? Because we're not. Because I messed up. Because they have a right to their space. And because I'm out here talking on podcasts, nobody will be able to say, well, she don't even talk to her own kids. They can get through if they want. The phone is here, but they've asked for space. I respect them as grown women. They are grown women paying their own bills. I respect that. They've asked for space. I give them space. And the best thing that I can do for them is what I'm doing now, continuing to evolve and heal and speak out about the things that happened to me and help other people. That is the best thing that I can do for them. But I'm like, I don't, I don't care if somebody says, oh, her and her kids aren't in a good place. It's on my Facebook page. I write about it, how it hurts sometimes. I'm open about it. How I know it's my fault. I take full responsibility, but it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt sometimes. The separation. But once you get to that space of healing, you just don't care anymore. You'll tell it all. It doesn't matter. You'll share it all. No one has anything to really hold over you.
Yeah, and I think that's another beautiful part of healing is, once you really get to a point where you just don't care in your healing journey, like you share your full story, and people are going to judge you no matter what, whether you share your full story or you don't, and it really doesn't matter. And I feel like I'm just, I'm at a point where if you're going to judge me, you're going to judge me. If you don't like me, that's not my business. I don't really care. I have the people in my life that I'm supposed to have in my life right now, and that's really all that matters. So it is what it is.
Exactly.
It's kind of the way that I
my soul family.
Right. That's kind of the way that I look at it. And it, in your healing journey, who you lose is who you're supposed to lose.
Mm-hmm.
So
they a lot of the people I lost, we were bonded over trauma. So if one person's healing the trauma, there's no longer that viable bond there. There's it becomes
very true.
Why are we talking to each other? Because you want to keep talking about trauma. I'm over it. I'm in this space now. So yes, I can honestly say, my children excluded, everybody I've lost I was supposed to lose.
Right.
Everybody. And even my daughters, for a period of time, it was meant for us to have the separation because they have things they need to heal. I had things I needed to heal. They need to see me operating fully independent. Like, I've been single 2.5 years. That's never happened. Ever happened. I've been single and celibate since my ex. I know my kids think I'm in a relationship or something, but I wasn't interested in it. I was interested in healing my heart because the damage that 4th grade teacher did to me was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. To be so cruel.
Yeah. Do you look to,
and it's
go ahead.
No, go ahead, sweetie.
Do you look to possibly, like, eventually try to rebuild a relationship with your daughters? Do you plan on, like, reaching out, or do you just
Absolutely.
Are you waiting on them to reach out, or is it just kind of like see what happens?
Right now, I wait on Yeah, right now I wait on them for the most part. I send cash apps, happy birthday, those types of things. Hey, I renewed the Costco membership, but I didn't change the address so you guys can still use it. Those types of things. I do hope that we come together, but they have some healing they need to do because their approach to me is not going to be like one of them has tried to approach me and I'm like, no, I'm not screaming at you. I'm not disrespecting you. You're not going to do it to me, period. So, she's got some growing up to do in that area where we need to come together as all adults respecting each other. Forget the relationship. Forget the titles of the relationship. All of us need to have conversations, authentic conversations about what has happened and our boundaries and be clear on them and respect them. And I know that can happen. I believe it can happen. But I know, at least for my two in Atlanta, I know they need to see something different. They really needed to see something different. For the last 2.5 years, I have done something different. So, they're worth it. They're worth the nights that I've been here rocking and crying. I've got their pictures everywhere. Sometimes I'll hug their photos. That is from my granddaughter. I hold out a lot of hope that we can come together, but it has to be respectful and in the right space, for all of us.
Yeah. I completely understand that. And I think it's important that, people hear that and people understand that even if there is a break and a rift and distance and things like that, that there is a chance to come back and reconnect. It just has to be the right timing for everyone. Like, it doesn't have to be this permanent, disconnect, but it has to be the right time for everyone.
I don't feel like my kids want to permanently disconnect from me. I feel like maybe at one time they thought they did, like 2.5 years ago. I don't feel that way anymore. I just really feel like they needed to see me really putting forth the effort to be a better person. I've always been a giving person, a people pleaser and things like that. But the lack of me believing in myself, brought in partners that were not healthy for me, and that then traumatized them. So, and especially after the last episode, that was kind of their breaking point. So, I take full responsibility. I'm actually doing a podcast Friday night on mama trauma, and I've caused them trauma. It's me speaking openly about I caused my kids trauma, not on purpose, never on purpose, but it's the truth, and I can't deny it. I won't. It's not fair to them.
I think that's one of my biggest fears as a mom, is causing my kids unintentional trauma. I've been a single mom on and off their whole life. Like I said, I have two different fathers for my children. I was with my oldest son's father till he was 3. I was with my youngest son's father till he was 2. And then I've had 2 other serious relationships since then. And then recently, my youngest son's father and I have gotten back together. And in the last couple days, it's kind of not been great, which is still very, very fresh. So I'm so worried about causing them unintentional trauma, from having people in and out. And with the domestic abuse they saw, I tried to keep it from them as much as possible. But of course, they heard and they saw things that they shouldn't have. But, as a mom, you do the best you can in situations, and especially in situations that you can't control with abuse, keep it away from them as best that you can. So I think that's literally probably, other than losing them in some sort of way, my biggest fear as a mom is unintentional trauma to them when they get older.
But see, the difference between you having your kids now and me having my kids 31 years ago, 25 years ago, 23 years ago, is we are walking around with supercomputers glued to our hands. So you have information available to you, and you use that information to make better choices, So please don't be hard on yourself, because even in doing this podcast, you're healing yourself, you're healing your children, you're setting up that, that arena for them. So I know with me, I didn't have information. If I had the information that I have today, things would have been totally different. Again, not an excuse. I take full accountability, but we didn't have all of this information. We had Encyclopedia Britannica. That was as good as it got.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, back then, 30 years ago, there was definitely 100% not the information we have today. And that's one thing that I say, like,
the internet had just started.
Right. Like, my generation is very lucky in the fact that we have so much information at our fingertips. I like to say, I joke with my co-host on my other podcast that we do, we are the generation of not only defining mental health, but like understanding mental health. Like we're literally giving certain diagnoses, like the names, like understanding it, figuring out what it is, defining it, titling, like the whole thing. Like, we're like, we have these symptoms. What the hell is it? Okay, now we've named it. How do we categorize it? Like we're putting it all together because we don't know what it is. Like we have to figure it out ourselves. Right. And it's so crazy that we have so much information at our fingertips, but yet we're the ones, like, we're experiencing it. What is it? What do we title it? Where do we put it? It's crazy.
It's true. It's true. It's absolutely true. I hate the word because it's thrown around so much. But narcissist, it's thrown around a lot now, and it's overused. Because none of us can give a medical diagnosis, of course, and that's supposed to be a diagnosis for healing from covert narcissism. That it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. The two, my niche, my specialties are helping people healing from potential covert narcissism, non-physical domestic violence, and helping people with incest, to heal from incest, because they're not talked about. Even if, and the thing is, you've experienced domestic violence. Sometimes people don't even believe you when they see bruises. Sometimes these people are so good at convincing other people of their greatness that they don't even believe you if they see it physically, that not the action, but if they see the end result physically. And it's just sad that so many women are in their homes, miserable, unhappy, being screamed at, things are thrown at them, hit or whatever. And people are saying, but he's such a great guy. But he's in the church, but he does this. There's always that excuse. But no, women need help. We need help, right? Have you seen that TikTok thing where it's going around saying, would a woman rather be caught in the woods with a man or a bear?
Yes.
Have you seen that?
We actually talked about it on my other podcast that come out. Well, it came out today. We're recording this on May 8th, so this episode's going to come out way after that. But yes, we talked about it on my other podcast that I have. and we discussed it in depth. And it's just like, it's so generalized that you can't even compare. And my co-host made a very good point when she brought it up. She was like, the question is unfair to men though, because you can't compare all men. Like, there's some really great men out there. And so the fact that you're like, would you rather be in the woods with a bear or a man? It's like, well, I mean, at the end of the day, I'd rather be in the woods with a man, because it's like, who's the man? Like, is it Bob Ross or is it, Ted Bundy? Like, who is it? That's what she said. She was like, of course I'd rather be in the woods with Bob Ross painting trees and, happy mistakes, she said.
Exactly.
And it's like, you can't just ask that question, because it's like, well, and then I said, I was like, listen, this poor bear's going to have trauma. He's going to need therapy when we're all done with him, because he doesn't want us in the damn woods to begin with. He's like, get the hell out of my woods. Leave me alone. The question is just so unfair to begin with, that it's like,
it is.
It's so silly to me. It's like, it's the most dumb question. It's like, and again, it's like, what kind of bear is it? Is it a koala bear? Is it a grizzly bear? Is it a polar bear? Is it a black bear? Like, what kind of bear is it? Like, I need more to choose from, because again, if you're putting me in the woods with Ted Bundy or a koala bear, I'm going to go with the koala bear. So
if you're putting me in the woods with Ted Bundy, I'll take my chance with the black bear.
Hi, I'll take the grizzly bear over Ted Bundy. So it really just, and that's how we looked at it on my other podcast. It's just like, the question just is not, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And again,
it's not
I'm
fair.
still going to take my chances with a man over a bear, regardless, I feel like.
I would take my chances with the bear over my ex.
Yeah. I don't know. When it comes to my abusive ex versus a bear, I still feel like I would choose him, because I feel like at the end of the day, I have a better chance of somehow getting away from him than I do the bear. And I hate to say that, but because we did it with we have two guys that come on with us once a month and chat with us that are our friends, and we do like guys versus women perspectives, and one of them is he's a bigger guy, and he was like, I'm taking the man or the woman out all the time, because my fat ass can't climb trees. And I was just like, I'm done with this question. Can we move on now, because I'm over it. And it was just like, really? But that's his personality. Like, it's so funny. He was like, I'm choosing the man or the woman every single time, because I can't climb a fucking tree to get away from the bear. And I'm like, most bears can climb trees though. Like, they're gonna come get you still. So it just, it was really funny. But I don't know. The whole question is just silly to me in general. But yeah, the fact that it's gone so viral, I was like, this bear's gonna need counseling. Okay, can somebody buy him a year's worth of therapy, because the poor bear is gonna need it.
He is with all the women. He is 100%.
We're giving this bear trauma.
It's a funny thing.
All of us women have given this poor bear trauma, and he did not deserve it.
He didn't do anything. He's just trying to stay in the forest, mind his business. That is it. I saw somebody put on like a bear suit and was dancing and repeating the stitching the question. I'm like, you guys are hilarious. But yeah, I'll take the bear over the ex, because
it's pretty funny. It's
pretty good. Not in a million years it was that bad. It was that bad. He would push me to the point. I have a seizure disorder. And he would scream at me, push me to the point right before you can tell I'm going to have one, and then tell me go take my medicine. Like, that's the kind of person he was. Just
those
evil.
are the kind of people that
Pure evil.
Pure evil. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. And like my youngest son's father got married after we separated and was with her for 6.5 years. And when I tell you, this woman, I've never witnessed anything like it. And again, narcissist is so overused, and no diagnosis known here, but you look up the word narcissist on the internet and her picture should be there. 10%. Master manipulator, just evil human being. When I tell you, she doesn't have control over every single aspect of anything in her life. It's really disgusting. And he's 6'7", like he's a big dude, tall, broad shoulder, like he's a big dude, and she's like 5'3", tiny. And I mean, when we were together the first time, it was like I could look at him and be like, "Hey, I want to go to like the county fairs in town. I want to go to the fair. I don't really want to go." He's not going. All right, cool, whatever. That's the thing. With her, she could be like, tie cinder blocks to your feet and jump in the river. You do it. 100% do it. And it's just like, how do these people get this control over people? I don't understand it. It's never made sense to me. And I just look at him and I'm like, how does she do this? And that's what's kind of been an issue lately, but it's wild to see
my ex's ex-wife had that kind of control.
The brainwashing and the like manipulation, even being he's like 6 months out of it, which is nothing. I mean, that's like 3 days in narcissistic time. But it's just like she can say, I don't want you to be with so and so anymore. And it's like, all right, cool. She's gone. And it's just like, wow, okay. So it just, I've never seen anything like it in my life. And I don't get it.
I had narcissistic traits when my kids were growing up, and I recognize them now as narcissistic traits because I felt like I needed to control things. I was a single mom, and had a really bad car wreck. I still have to have surgery twice a year, and my car wreck was 20 years ago. I just felt like I had to control everything. And that, to be able to say, yes, I did have narcissistic traits. Am I a narcissist? No, because if you're asking yourself the question, it's impossible for you to be. I'm too empathetic, and I'm used to be a people pleaser. But I did have those control traits, and I regret them. I regret trying to maintain so much control. I could have let loose a little bit and let them breathe a little bit, and they would have been just fine. But I felt like I had to control everything, because it was just me, and I was half of a person here. Always in pain and surgery and this and that. And so that's one of my kids' qualms against me, and it's valid. It's valid. But I can't say I'm a narcissist. I can say I used to have narcissistic traits. And I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and this lady was listing, she said, count how many of these traits somebody has. That's how you know they're a covert narcissist. My ex had 9 of 9 when she started naming them. He had every single 9 of 9.
Wow. I would be interested to see if his ex had those. And I know and I know they say there's a somewhat difference between men and women, like narcissists, but I feel like something like that, they might be I don't know if they're the same or different in situations like that or not.
His ex ran the house. I don't know what she had over him or on him or whatever, but he would just allow her to come in the house and do things, and I'm like, whoa, wait, hello. this is inappropriate. When you're at my house, do you see my kid's dad coming in and going in the kitchen? And, that's a no. He would never stand up to her. Never. Again, in hindsight, it was triangulation. It's what they do. Keep that, a competition that wasn't even a competition, because her and I were very close at first. We were I still have pictures with her. I deleted all the pictures with him, but I still have photos that we took together going to their son's events and stuff like that. And, I think back, she was a teacher when they met. She worked a full-time job. She can barely get out of bed now. And I really wonder if being married to him for the 3 years they were married, if that's what did it. Now, I heard she was kind of off, before they got married. I really wonder if he pushed her over the edge.
Would make sense, yeah.
Because if she went through anything like what I went through, I feel bad.
Yeah, and that's definitely like how his ex is too. They have 2 kids together, and right now they're divorced. To create reads for him to see them has to be within the marital home, and there's cameras outside her home, inside her home. Well, I say her home because she got it in the divorce, because he didn't fight it. She had, she had him so brainwashed that like everything that was in the home that she bought was hers. And I was like, I told him after, like once we started talking again, I was like, was it bought before you guys got married or after? And he was like, after. And I was like, then that's marital property. Whether she bought it or not, like she could have went out and bought 4 vehicles, like 3 bedroom suits, 14 couches. It doesn't matter if she paid for them and has the receipt. If she bought it after you guys got married, that's marital property. Like you're entitled to half of all of that. And he was like,
exactly.
Oh. And I was like, same thing with the house. Like you guys could have sold it and you got half, or move out and she paid you like whatever, paid you half and she stayed there. And he was like, that's not how she described it to me. And I'm like, because she has you so brainwashed to think whatever she says is true. And so to see the kids, like, it's marital home, and she's such a control every situation. There's cameras outside, like in the driveway, and can see some of the yard, and there's cameras in the home so she can see what's going on even if she's not there. Like that's how cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs we're talking here. It's like I just like, if you don't trust your ex-husband and father of your children that much with your children, why did you have children with him?
I don't trust my ex with my kids, but I wouldn't need to go that far with the cameras in the house and all of that. No, that's unnecessary. I mean, if you have a camera in your house facing your door just for security reasons, that's one thing. But to have them just to spy, it's wrong. It's so disrespectful. It is so disrespectful.
It's unbelievable to me. Like I want to do an episode so badly on like women narcissistic traits and like all of the differences, because I really want him to like understand. So
I can send you the download that I created, and you can show it to him if you want, because it's for men and women. But I created a download. I'm almost done with it. I'm finishing the last page. 15 common traits to see if you're dealing with a covert narcissist. And I go into detail. And then I'm creating an ebook for it later and a journal for it later. But I have the download, so I'm happy to send it to you if you'd like to, show it to him.
Absolutely. Listen,
because they're very common.
Anything that can kind of like undo his doing with her would be, it's essential and it's needed right now, because it's 6.5 years with her is, and I've always heard that like the amount of time that it took to get them there, it doubles to undo it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's, I mean, I was with mine for a little, right at like a year and a half, and I'm 5.5 years out, and I still have moments where I'm like, you know, I have those things, and it's terrifying to know that it could take a very long time for him, because I don't want that for him. So
Right. But if he recognizes it, it doesn't have to. The good thing is, it doesn't have to take that long. That's just an average that they throw out there.
he's not
I was with
recognizing it yet.
mine
That's the problem.
right
He's
at
not
2
seeing it.
years, and I'm 2.5 years out, and I'm fine now. If a gentleman, not a psycho, if a gentleman asked me on a date, I would go. If you know what I mean, I'm in that space now where because for the last 2 years, if men have even looked at me, I'm like, what are you look? Who are you talking to? You can't be talking to me. Because I just didn't want anything to do with anyone. I just wanted to heal. I just wanted to show my kids that I could do this alone. And I'm now in a space where, if someone's interested and they're of a high standard, have good moral character, then I would consider it. But it took 2.5 years.
Yeah,
And I was
he's
with
not
him
even
2 years.
he's not even really seeing it yet, I don't think, which is really hard. It's just, I don't know, hard, but hopefully soon. But
I'll send you that download. Hopefully that'll help a little bit, because if he sees it in the way I have it packaged, it looks like it's for everybody. You know what I mean? And I made it gender neutral, but I put the 15 top red flags that you're gonna see.
yeah, for sure. I'd love to see it for sure. So you also said that you're a psychic as well, which piques my interest in so many ways. So talk to us a little bit about that.
I've always known that I've been a seer because from the time I was 2, my mom said I was crawling under the table and I kept saying, "Pop, pop, you can't catch me." And the phone rings and she found out my pop pop passed. So I've always had the gift of sight. But, in life, in marriage, I wound up married to 2 very religious people. So I went the very religious route, which means you got to shut this part of yourself off. But I moved back to DC to help my sister when she lost her spouse. And I could see him around the house, but I would always act like I couldn't see or hear him. Now the dog would be looking right at him and barking and stuff, but I'd, you know, and finally one day she was at work. She had gone into the office and he was standing in the kitchen doorway and he said something and I turned around and then I went, "My God," and he goes, "You can hear me." So he gave me a message to give to my sister. Now, my sister is not a believer in any of this, any of this. So I did not give her that message for 9 months. When I moved into my apartment, though, my mother's voice got undeniably loud. I could not deny that she was here any longer. She's always on my right side. I could not deny it. And it got to the point where she would wake me up every night. "Get up, it's time to talk. Get up, it's time to get up." And then she started introducing other ancestors that I have on my spirit team. So, my mother is always here. My pop and my stepdad, and my brother, they show up when there's trouble. They don't stay around the house so much, but my mother's always here. And then I have 4 generations of grandmothers on my mother's side and 1 generation that I know of on my father's side, my grandmother on my dad's side. And they give me messages and downloads, and we do our little oracle cards. I do read tarot, but I'm handing that off to someone else because it takes a lot of energy. But yeah, it's been quite interesting to step into this space and to announce it to the world. But it's a lot of fun too. I know I'm never alone, so it makes it made the healing journey a lot easier because I always felt her here. I always felt her with me, so it wasn't so bad. But they're very active. They are very active. They'll make me get up. They'll make me start journaling, learning things. They were all psychics, and because of the times, you know, one of my grandmothers was born in the 1800s, and she was a psychic. She's on my spirit team. Because of their time, they could not, show their gift. So they've been waiting for me. And yesterday I was on a podcast, and the young lady who was interviewing me, I didn't know she was a seer. And she said, "Your mother is standing next to you and is so proud." And I knew my mom was right here. I always feel when she's there, she's like, there's just this light coming from her. And you've got all these women around you that are just, so proud that you accepted this and that you live in a time where now your gifts can be used. So I use my gifts to help others heal. I help them, look into the spirit realm, channeled deceased loved ones. It's been quite an experience, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've always been super interested in stuff like that. And, I have my grandparents that have passed away that I was super close with. I have an aunt that passed away suddenly, unexpectedly. And, I've always like been curious. I'm like, I want to see like signs and things from them, but I never do, and it's weird. And I'm like, I always see these like videos and things of like people, I saw a sign from my grandmother, I saw a sign from so and so, and I'm like, why don't I ever get things like that from people that I know that have passed
Have
on?
you asked?
I have. And see, my grandmother, I feel like my grandmother was like a very like non-believer of stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like she probably wouldn't, but I have asked. The only thing I've ever really noticed, like my aunt actually slipped and fell in the shower and like hit her head and passed away, like almost
Mm.
instantly, and completely just out of the blue, obviously. But one thing that I've noticed like randomly like dragonflies everywhere, just random times, like completely random here and there. And me and my mom are always like, "That's her," but I
Mm-hmm.
don't like have confirmation that that's her. There's no,
Ask them
yeah,
to show you a certain sequence of numbers. So you pick the number. That's what I started to do. When I first started hearing, my mother really clearly and she was introducing others, I started saying, "Hey, you guys, can you show me this number if this is happening? Can you show me that number if that's happening?" And it works. It literally works. Your your aunt is around you. She's actually standing behind you, my right, your left. And the dragonflies are confirmation of her. She did go immediately. She didn't feel any pain. And she wants you to know she's proud of you. Sorry. That's kind of how it happens.
no, yeah, that's you're
So,
totally fine. I also with her, I get that I look like her a lot. Dark hair, light eyes, you know. So my mom a lot of the times will be like trying to just like say my name, and she'll say her name, and then she just like looks at me, and then she's like, "Damn it." Um, so I get that a lot with her too. But when it first happened, it's my mom's sister, and my mom was one of four, and she was the baby, and my mom is the oldest. So my mom took it extremely hard. I really thought that we were gonna have to put my mom in like a mental institution because I thought, I mean, it was really bad. But I think the hardest one for me is definitely my Nana, my dad's mom, because her and I were like this growing up. Like we were like two little pieces. Like I went to her house every single weekend growing up. Until God, probably from the time I could crawl until I drove a car. And I think that's been my hardest thing, like losing her, is I've always been like, please just show me something so I know you're still here. And I've asked it so many times, and I feel like I never get anything. And that's
what time are you asking?
Word, I don't even know.
What time of day?
I don't, probably just random anytime.
Ask just between 3 and 5 a.m.
Okay.
There's no veil between this world and the spirit world between 3 and 5 a.m. They call it the witching hour.
Yeah.
But the veil is pretty much non-existent. And like that's when I get most of my communication. Now, don't get me wrong, she'll wake me up at 8 o'clock sometimes, and I'm like, lady, I just laid down. But between 3 and 5 a.m., if you're struggling to communicate, just every day ask, show me the sequence of numbers. Show me the sequence of numbers. And you'll start to see it. You'll start to see it. You'll start to feel their presence. They're around you. You have a spirit team around you. But we have to be the ones to invite them verbally in. We have to ask them to come forward. Now, my mother she's a Leo, so she's just going to come forward regardless. She's been in my publisher's house whispering to her. She's all over the place. But everyone else, I had to ask, when she told me they were there, I had to ask them to come forward. And then you also want to make sure when you're calling on your spirit team to ask for the ones that are there for your highest good. Because there's always those family members' energies that still remain in the void that would not mean you good. So always, ask for who's here for my highest good. And that's when you'll get your Nana and your aunt and your granddad and the rest of the people that are around you. But ask, and if you have to write it at 3 a.m., just show me this number. Show me this number. They will. It'll start to be like, whoa, wait a minute, huh? Because, the first time you see it, you think it's a fluke. The second time you see it, you're like, huh? And then it becomes normal. Now I know anytime they show me my birthday number, something great is about to happen. If they show me 214 and it's actually 214 on the clock.
Wow. Okay.
There's the proof. And I didn't even see that. I didn't even look down before I said it. But yeah, they so it always means that something good is coming toward me when I see my birthday number. And
yeah,
tell them what you want the numbers to represent. It doesn't have to be like the angel numbers we Google. You can tell them what you need those numbers to represent. So you can say, if I see 333, are we in danger? You know what I mean? Like, you can assign those numbers yourself.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've had a habit, and this has been going on probably like 3 years. I see, and everybody associates it with bad, but I see sixes all the time. Whether it's 2 6s, 3 6s, or 4
Not
6s,
bad.
I see sixes all the time.
That's really good, actually. My book is over there. No, sixes are not what we are taught they are. It's actually a very good number. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. My book is over there, but I can send you a screenshot of the book when we're done to show you, but it's actually a very good sequence of numbers. 666 is the color blue in the universe. 666 is the color blue. So there's nothing negative about sixes. Please don't believe that at all. Sevens means something's ending. 8 means abundance. 9 means you closing out a cycle. 4, be prepared for change. 5, change is right on you. Of course, 1s are always great, but you can definitely, just get a notebook, one of those 10-cent notebooks from Walmart or whatever, and start writing to your people, writing to your spirit team. This is what I want to see. This is what I want to hear, blah, 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 blah. And they're still coming forward, but we have to invite them.
That's crazy that you said
it's my motto.
4 is change and 5 is like change is right above you or right upon you, because the stuff that happened with my son's father happened on 5-4 and 5-5.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm such a numbers person.
It's real.
Like I am such a numbers person. Like when I see coincidences with numbers, I'm like, those are not coincidences with numbers. Like there's just no way. And when I talk about my Nana, like so she was born on January the 5th. I was born on January the 6th. And then my son, my dad was born, which my dad is my Nana's son. So my dad was born on 7/7 and my son was born on 7/8. And that's 6 months apart. Exactly. And then my youngest son was born on 9/10. So if you look at it in that whole sense, it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it's just,
oh my gosh,
wild to me. I'm like,
that is so cool.
There's just, with numbers, I'm such a numbers person. I'm like, it's crazy. It's just, what? And the fact that like
I'm the same way. So yeah, if you're a numbers person, definitely ask them.
Yeah, for sure.
They'll show it to you.
I'm gonna try and figure out a number for her, because I feel like, and it may be like 5, 6 or something because of our birthdays or something like that. But I think that would be something that would be easy. But yeah, listen, I have loved having you on here. This has been a fun conversation, and I've learned a lot. I think your story is amazing and incredible. Your story is going to inspire so many people, just because they're going to know that they can get out and, change their life no matter what is going on. And I think that's what we're here to do. So yeah, I've loved having you.
We are. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast chatting with you and getting to know you. It really has.
Yeah, you as well. I'll put, if you want to send me any links, I can put everything in the show notes. That way people can find you, find your book when it comes out, everything like that, and all of your social medias. We can put that in there as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'll send that PDF over to you. The one, it's like I said, it's not complete. The last page isn't completely finished, but you'll be able to see it. The rest of it is.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you too. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Make sure you hit the follow button on whatever listening platform you are using, and head over to my social media pages and give me a follow there as well. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and now TikTok at Creating Yourself Pod. And if you have a story you would like to share on this podcast, email me at creatingyourselfpod@gmail.com, or you can message me on any of my social media pages. Make sure and come back next Tuesday for a brand new episode. Hope you guys have a great week. Bye.